Hey everybody, it's Mike Lieberman from Advisors Capital Management. Thank you for sitting in on today's webinar, 10 Reasons Prospecting is Difficult and 10 Solutions to Make It Easier. Feel free to write any comments or questions you have in the question bar, and we certainly will be able to get to them. But to go ahead and get started, I'm going to try and move through these slides fairly quickly because I'm sure everybody would like to get home for the day. But to get things started, right, one of the first things that advisors have to deal with is the fact that social media is not working in regards to prospecting in ways that maybe you thought it previously would. Right? There's no such thing as a silver bullet when thinking about marketing. And before social media, right, going back 20 years, there was email, and you were going to be able to put together an email distribution list, and that was going to bring in prospects, right? And then it didn't. And before that, after that, then there was constant contact and email newsletters. That was going to be able to bring in contacts. It didn't. And prospects, it didn't. Then your website was going to do it, and that didn't work either. So now social media is sort of being looked at as the silver bullet, and it's not working. And the question is, why not? Right? Why is it that social media is not working? What can we do to help you make things a little better for your mousetrap? The first is how you think of things. Right? Your social media is not a billboard, it is social. And so think about the websites that you go to multiple times a day and why you go to them. Right? Business Insider, CNBC, Twitter, Facebook, whatever it is. You go multiple times a day, not because you trust them, right? But you go because the content is changing. And content, right, is king. And if you think about that, right, and take it outside the world of being a financial advisor, think about how important content is and how unimportant the distribution method is. So if you think about a movie, right, the content is the movie. The distribution method has changed unbelievably over time, right? Going back 20 years, first it was the, say, 8-track or whatever it was, then it was VHS, that died, then it was Laserdisc, right? That died, then it was DVD, that died, now it's digital, and eventually that too may change. What doesn't change is the content, and that's the reason people keep going back. And so what kind of content are you putting out in your social media platforms? And so let's think about that for a sec in terms of how it is you can cater a message to who it is that you want to talk to. So if you think about it, your prospects are most likely the people in your community. Right, that's going to make up the good majority of the prospects of your advisory practice. And so you need to recognize, right, who your audience is, develop a message around that, what's the localization strategy, and then dedicating a resource allocation time to it. So let's use an example in talking about these 4 bullet points and how it can work out in your practice. So if you're a financial advisor based in Detroit, right? General Motors just announced that they were going to be laying people off, something like 800 people off. So if your audience prioritization was General Motors employees and the content you were putting out in your social media was about what just happened at General Motors, what to do if you're laid off, how to hold a family planning meeting, how to discuss the topic with your kids, how to et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all related to General Motors, right? And if your distribution list includes just some people at GM in Detroit, they're going to pass that along to some of their friends at work who may have been laid off, and you are going to be looked at as being the guy who has the answers when this happens to you within the General Motors community. So your audience prioritization, you've decided to dial in on people who have been laid off from General Motors, right? The message development, rolling your 401k into an IRA once you've been laid off, how to deal with being laid off, how to have the conversations, how to network, how to find your next career opportunity. Localization strategy, General Motors is big. We want to focus on General Motors in Detroit because that's where you are located as a financial advisor. And resource allocation, right, recognizing that this takes time. Right, and you as the advisor need to put the time in on a weekly basis, daily basis, bi-weekly basis, and commit an hour each time you want to write a session. And recognize that you want to put that session or that commentary out or that content out at the same time all the time. So if it's every day at 4 o'clock. If it's once a week, it's Monday afternoon at 3 p.m. Monday evening, 7 p.m. If it's every bi-weekly, it's Wednesdays at 7 p.m. And that way the people on your list are used to getting it from you at a certain time, at a certain week, continuously. You want them looking for it, knowing that it's going to come from you. So again, audience prioritization is very big. Recognize who it is that your prospects actually are and talk to them. If you're out there putting out social media about, a treasury, a yield inversion, a bond yield inversion, nobody cares, right? Your clients don't care. So if you're just repackaging stuff that is found on MarketWatch or articles you think are interesting or whatever that may be, that's not going to help your prospects. It's not going to help you gain prospects because you're not talking to them. So why is it you want to be there distributing content on something like LinkedIn? Well, here's why, right? 27% of adults say they use it and 41% of millionaires. Average CEO has 930 connections. If your connections, again, on LinkedIn are me, right, that doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm not your prospect. And so you shouldn't be dying to connect to people like me. You should be using this as a distribution mechanism to reach your prospects. It makes sense for me to link into you, right, but not vice versa. So something to think about in terms of recognizing your social media, what it is, who you're talking to, and make sure you're talking to them in the language that they understand, that you're saying the things that concern them. Right? But don't stop there. Social media allows you to drive prospects back to your website. Right? At the bottom of all your social media posts, you can always say, if you want more information, please come to this specific page of my website. Don't send them to the generic homepage. Right? Send them to a page that was created to talk about what it is you're driving traffic to. And then from there, you can drill to other parts of your website and show them what you can offer. Right? But use the mechanism to kick them over, right? To push them over to your website. So every social media outpost or post out should have a link back to somewhere on your website so that you can go ahead and give them more of what you can do. Number 2 reason why prospecting is hard, right? You feel like you're talking to a wall. You try something, it doesn't work, and you stop. Well, let's think about things in terms of marketing and the rule of 7, right? Marketing 101. It takes 7 recognitions of content of a name brand before somebody even gets it through their sort of head, gets through somebody's skull to recognize that, oh yeah, I've heard of that before. 7 different attempts, right? And so again, think about how it is that you're reaching out to prospects, how it is you're touching them, how it is you're talking to them, and think about how this is being done to you. So every March, TurboTax comes along, right, because they know people are going to be filing their taxes in April and they want you to think of them. And so what do? Right, they hit you with 7 different approaches: email, radio, TV, Google, Facebook, banner ads, and direct mail. 7 different approaches so that they can say, we've touched, we've reached, we've broken down that barrier, and you think to yourself, oh, TurboTax, I've heard of them. Oh, TurboTax, I'm comfortable with them. Right, 7 different approaches. So when talking to prospects, how can you too have 7 different approaches, right? So when they are thinking about making a change and somebody suggests you, they say, oh yeah, I've heard of them. Oh yeah, I'm comfortable with them. It's not something out of left field. Right, here's 7 events you can do where you can invite prospects and you're going to start to break down their wall. You're going to start to break down their barrier of name brand recognition of your practice. Right, here they are, networking events, seeing an ad, seeing your logo, seeing your social media, receiving your e-newsletter, a phone call, word of mouth. So when working your prospects, you need to be hitting on all angles and recognizing that not one of them is going to be the panacea. Not one of them is going to be the thing that pushes them over. It's a blend of everything. And it's very difficult. Some of these you can measure, the performance. Your newsletter, you can see if they open, if they repeat open. Your social media, you can see if you clicked. But networking event, you can see if they attend. Seeing your logo, okay, well, that may come from sponsoring a local team, or it may come from, putting your business card out somewhere. But these are things that you're not going to be able to mention. Word of mouth, obviously, you can't mention. So some of it you can measure in terms of ROI, and some of it you can't. But what's important through all of this, right, is making sure that your branding and marketing efforts are repetitive and consistent. Right? Your branding and marketing efforts need to be repetitive and consistent. And so if you have a tagline, right, it should be on all of your stuff. It should be on your envelopes. It should be on your notebooks. It should be on the tchotchkes that you give out. It maybe even should be on statements. It should be on proposals. It should be on everything. So if I am the 401k to IRA advisor, that's what I want to be known as. That should be put on every single thing you're producing, whether it's the back of T-shirts, whether it's the back of anything. Because that message, you want to be repeated and consistent in and of itself. You want it to be repeated. You want it to be thought of. You want it said so many times that your clients can prospect for you by telling the tagline of your brand. So your branding, your logo, your slang, your sayings, your taglines, it all should be consistent, repetitive, and on everything. Number 3 reason prospecting is difficult. You take a one-and-done approach, right? You try something, it doesn't work, and you throw your hands up in the air. I'm never doing that again. Well, how can we go ahead and turn your prospecting approach into the power of 7? Right? How can we take a seminar where maybe it didn't work and push that into a seminar series? Right? Instead of getting up there at a seminar and throwing everything you have against the wall, right, and maybe something sticks, how can we start to create a series of seminars that are specialized? And therefore, you know how to cater the message to the prospects that do show up. So fine, you get to see what it is. To a degree, you get to test, but you get to see what it is that's going to drive the most volume. If you do a presentation on trust services, a seminar on trust services, and 5 people show up, you know that probably wasn't worth repeating. If you do one on investment management or market updates and 30 people show up, right, now you know where you want to start to spend your money going forward. So how can you turn a seminar into a seminar series? And here are a bunch of different topics. And where you start with, I don't know, but you can obviously bring in a specialist on each one. So you become the coordinator of solutions for your prospects. You get to promote and the next seminar also. But you also get to drill down on what it is that's important to that prospect. You start to be able to cater your message to get them to close by talking about what it is they want to hear. Right? If someone shows up at retirement planning and doesn't show up at insurance planning, it doesn't make sense to sell that person an insurance policy or to lead with that. Right? It makes much more sense to talk about cash flow analysis. It makes much more sense to talk about required minimum distributions, that type of thing. So you get to cater your prospecting message based on the sessions people attend. But throwing your arms up after one, right, isn't a great idea. It just means that the message wasn't the right message. The content wasn't the right content. But you can't drill down on what was successful and what wasn't without starting to break up your practice into all the specialty situations, all the solutions that you can offer. Number 4, right? Prospecting is not a process, it's a lifestyle. So what exactly does that mean? Right? Everyone here has heard about their elevator pitch, and everyone knows that in order to close somebody in an elevator in 30 seconds, you got to have exactly what you do down. Well, think about that for a sec. Right? Are you prepared to prospect during all events of your lifestyle? And what does that mean? Well, that means when you're at your son's baseball practice or baseball game, and the coach says to you, "What do you do for a living?" Bang. Are you ready to hit it? When the doctor, right? When you're at the doctor's office and you're sitting on that crinkly paper, and the doctor says to you in that awkward small talk type of conversation, "What do you do for a living?" Bang. Are you ready to hit it? Right? And obviously the answer isn't, "I'm a financial advisor." It's I help people plan for retirement. I help doctors, right, work with their defined benefit plans. I help fathers have the conversation with their kids about insurance planning, about estate planning, that type of thing. Are you prepared to hit them in all aspects of your lifestyle? Right? You're doing a college tour with your kids. You're visiting a university and you're at the tour and you're talking to the other parents there. What do you do for a living? Bang. How are you prepared to hit it? So be prepared to always have your elevator pitch ready and recognize that your prospecting is a lifestyle. Again, bang. How are you going to hit it? Number 5, your money versus my money. My wholesalers out in the field obviously are asked all the time, "Hey, can you help sponsor this? Hey, can you help me with this event?" As a financial advisor, do you think you have a greater vested interest in the outcome of your event if you spend your money or my money? Right? The answer is by far your money. And so we're not talking about a lot either. So if you think about what a great ROI is, right? If in our portfolios that we provide to advisors and their clients, if we have a stock that goes up over 10 years, was a 10 bagger over 10 years, you'd be thrilled. You'd think, oh man, what a great stock. These guys are great at what they do. Fantastic, right? How can you get a 10 bagger out of your process? Well, if you put together a seminar and say it costs you 10 grand, right? It's going to be a pretty nice seminar. And so if your goal out of that is one client, $1 million at 1%, that's $10,000 a year. If that client stays with you for 10 years, you now have a 10 bagger. That event returned a 10 bagger for you over the course of 10 years. If you bring in $2 million, right, you're talking about a 20 bagger. Right? We'd kill for that on an ROI basis. And you can do it with your practice. You can do it with your events. But again, if getting you to work harder on the follow-up and work harder on the prospecting comes from putting your own money up as opposed to the money of a wholesaler, do it. Right? We obviously don't mind helping with events, but again, you're the one who knows the answer there. So when writing checks, if you can write them yourself, right, that's great. This is really interesting. Number 6, your process from prospect to close is not defined. And what does that mean? Well, you get a prospect, you get somebody who's interested, then what? What's your plan? What's your process? Do you have an outline for where you are in terms of your communication with them, where they are in the chain of your plan, and what the follow-up is? Right? And there are a lot of reasons why this is important. So you sit down with the doctor, right? He says, what do you do for a living? You tell him. He says, yes, I'd be interested in hearing more about that. Great. You get an appointment. He comes to see you. You do a plan. You present the plan. You follow up. What if at some point in here, he stops responding? What if at some point in here, he goes cold? As the millennials say, he ghosts you. Well, maybe you get to see in an analysis of your own practice, if you're losing prospects after the doing a plan phase or the presenting the plan phase, you now know how to make changes. But what is your process and where are all your prospects in terms of this process? Right? Are you in the talking phase with 4 of them? Have you moved them along to getting an appointment? Have you moved them along to doing a plan? Or do you just throw them out to your assistant and say, hey, follow up with this person? Right? You're going to have much better traction if you know where your prospects are in the process of getting them to the finish line. And with that, how do you track your prospects? How do you track them? Are they hot, warm, cold, and no chance? And what does that exactly mean? Right? How often should you be touching base with a hot prospect? How often with a warm, cold, and no chance? So I think a hot prospect, probably touching base with once a week. Warm once every other week, cold once a month, no chance once a year, because no chance doesn't ever really mean no chance. Okay, well then how do you track who's hot, who's warm, who's cold, no chance, when the last time you spoke to them was? So we created something here, and you can see for our wholesalers, and I tweaked it a little bit so that it made more sense for financial advisors. But you can create this in Excel, right? And it's a spreadsheet that says first, last email, how you met, the city, the opportunity size, the last contact, the method of contact, and the previous contacts. And this spreadsheet lights up, right, when somebody falls outside the realm of when they should be touched. So if you are a hot contact, you should be touched once a week. And in the last contact column there, the second one down, it says the last time we touched this guy was 6/4/2018. So now a week has passed and we haven't updated the previous contacts on the right. We haven't done a new last contact. If a week passes, the next time I open this spreadsheet, this thing is going to be flashing in red. And it's saying reach out, reach out, reach out, reach out. And it doesn't go away until you send another communication. This spreadsheet allows us to track all of our prospects and how we met them, how we're communicating with them. Why is this really, really important? One, if we are losing prospects and we're hitting them all with a method of contact, maybe we should change our method of contact, right? So if my first guy, or better one there, the second one there is not responding, and I've emailed, maybe now we recognize that email is not the way this guy wants to be contacted. So we should try phone. We should try a letter. We should try something else, right? Because I know that email is not working. If I'm getting responses from email but not phone, now I know this guy likes to go by phone, by email. So we can start to see what it is that's working and what it is that's not. And we can start to measure how it is that our prospects are responding to make sure we're hitting them the right way. The how met column is really, really important because it always gives you a conversation talking point to go back to. So in the event a prospect starts to come undone, or you feel like they're not sticking with you, they're leaving you for whatever reason, they're not returning to your calls, the how met category always gives you a conversation talking point that goes back to basics. So 3 up from the bottom, Lori Robinson, you met on college tour. Right, she was in the college tour at Boston College with your son or daughter, and that's where you met them. And so fine. She since has gone dark. You can't get in touch with her again. You can always send her an email that says, hey, we're going up for alumni weekend to see the kids or to see my son Johnny. Wanted to see if you were going as well. Maybe we could all get together for dinner. Or maybe Boston College wins the big game, the football game, and they beat Notre Dame. Did you see the game? What a great game. Thought of you, blah, 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 blah. So it gives you the ability to always reach out. The very last one at the bottom, right? You met him at Bill's party. Oh, did you hear that Bill's wife is pregnant? Right? Are you sending a gift? We're going to be sending so-and-so. Would love to go in with you. Something like that, right? It gives you the ability to take the prospect relationship back to the basics in the event that it starts to come undone. And from there, hopefully then you can restart the conversation. But this spreadsheet gives you a lot of mining information, a lot of data information that you can continue to use to refine your prospect conversion and also go back to basics if you have to. City, important too, right? Because the most basic thing we all talk about, weather, right? You're in New York, so you got a blizzard. Hey, just thinking about you, saw there was a blizzard. Hope you didn't get buried. Maybe you'll get a response there. Okay. You don't mine your own data. So important to mine your own data. Have you ever looked at your client base, right, and figured out a couple of different things? One, how did you get your best clients? What prospecting strategy did you use? Why didn't you repeat it? And did you create a marketing plan around it? Right? So how did you get your best clients? And then can you make that a better process, a more efficient process to lead to more prospects? Have you ever mined your own data to determine what maybe your client base has a similar employment? Meaning what percentage of your client base are doctors? What percentage are lawyers? Maybe you should be catering your marketing message around who it is that you're talking to, right? Is it doctors? Okay, well, let's talk about how we can build portfolios at ACM that have assets that can be restricted, right? So doctors don't want to own tobacco. That comes up all the time. And so are you able to offer that to a prospect who's a doctor, or to have your doctors talk amongst that? Because if they're in mutual funds, obviously they can't do that. In ETFs, they can't do that. So are you able to take the finer points of your practice and create marketing messages around that? So lawyers, doctors, what's the average age of your client base? Is your client base largely qualified or non-qualified accounts? Changes how you're marketing, right? Are you going to market tax efficiency or not? So what does your client base look like? How deep is your data, and how often have you mined it? We mine it all of our data all the time across thousands of accounts. Right? We want to know what the average fee charged by advisors is. We mine the data. Did you know that fees on the East Coast and West Coast of the United States are lower than they are in Central America? They are. Why? Right? Less competition in the center of the country than there is on the coast. So, we're always trying to mine data, and you can too, to use it as marketing pieces. Certainly something you can always try to tackle, right? But a lot of data is there at your own fingertips. Does your referral request system look like this? If it does, it probably doesn't work, right? I think one person wrote this email once, and everybody in the entire industry copied it. It's everywhere, right? And so that doesn't seem like a great way to do it, right? A lot easier way to do it is something that our wholesalers do all the time with financial advisors. And it's a simple, easy question that's not offensive. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask, right? And what exactly does that mean? Well, you, Mr. Smith, we put together a great estate planning process for you. We've tied in your investment portfolios, your required minimum distribution. We've looked at Social Security. We've looked at a pension, how you're going to get enough income for retirement. Wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask, do you have any other friends that are in the same situation as you that we can help? Think about how many times our wholesalers, again, do it to you. hey, do you know any other advisors who currently use individual stocks, individual bonds that may be looking for customized solutions for their clients? Sure. You can go talk to Jim down the hallway. I can't tell you how many times we've been introduced to Jim down the hallway because simply we asked an advisor. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask. Your client base has a large network of people in the exact same position as they are, right? Typically, they don't talk about it until something comes up, but maybe something unfortunate happens in a group of friends where somebody passes away, and all of a sudden they're all talking about life insurance. And so you want to be there to be thought of as the referral, but again, if you don't ask, they may not think of you, right? And thank your clients with a personal touch. Reinforce good behavior because prospects or clients are far more likely to do it again if they feel good about doing it, right? They're more likely to think of you again if you reinforce it, the Pavlov's dog theory, right? And so when you're thanking them, do it yourself, right? There are a lot of times you could be Arnold Schwarzenegger or you could be Danny DeVito, meaning that you can hand the process of thanking your clients for a referral to your assistant. But don't do it, right? Your practice has grown to the size that it has and the way that it has because of you. It's you that's the driving force behind your practice. And so let that shine through, even in something as basic as a thank you note, right? Don't outsource it because your clients can sniff that out. It's not real. It's not rewarding. It just seems lazy. So again, in the relationship, be Schwarzenegger. Don't be DeVito when sending a thank you. The ninth reason, right, prospecting is hard. Compliance won't let me, so I don't even bother, right? What I want to do is too challenging. What I want to do, it's just there are no people and I can't get it done. Well, here is a good way to do it, right? Be proactive and not reactive, but be proactive about presenting the solution with the ask. So when other advisors are doing what you want to do, and you should be sitting in on other advisors' seminars so that you can learn about what it is that's successful and how it is that's successful, but ask them, right, how did you do this? How did your manager get this through compliance on your end? And then once he says, well, I'm not sure, but you can reach out to him. You can give it to your manager to connect with his manager and ask, we want to do a seminar that's similar to the ones you did, but how did you get it past compliance? And once you give compliance the solution along with your request, right, it is a much harder challenge for them to say no. If you just simply ask without providing the solution, it is very easy for them to say no. So you want to have problem solution or issue solution as opposed to just issue. But if you're proactive and not reactive, they are far more likely to say yes. The 10th reason prospecting is hard, right? Your offering doesn't stand out. This is a huge, huge phrase if you think about it. Your offering doesn't stand out. And what exactly does that mean? Well, let's just take a look at your website, for example. Is your website about you? Does it talk about these things? Firm independence, conflict-free, acting in clients' best interest, estate planning, and tailored advice. All of these things, my answer to all of them is, well, I would hope so. Right? If these are the things that you have on your website does you no service. It does you no justice. Right? Conflict-free? I would hope so. Acting in the client's best interest? I would hope so. Tailored advice, estate planning, what do we do for a living? So these are all about you, and they're table stakes that everybody has. What if you were talking more about the client, right, and them recognizing in what they're reading, oh, yes, that's me. Yes, this advisor can solve my problems. I don't care that this guy has firm independence. I don't even know what that means. I care that they can solve my problem. So in doing that, what is the unique value proposition? What is your, as the financial advisor, unique value proposition? And let's give you one here so you can see, who is this company, right? This is a value proposition for a company you're all familiar with, right? Obviously, it's Apple. Their name is not in there, but the value proposition, you already know it. Another one, right? It's H&R Block. Value proposition in there. You already know it. And lastly, right, it's Amazon. So by having the value proposition in being, well, I'm the General Motors layoff advisor, right? Now you have your value proposition. You didn't mention the name of your practice. You didn't mention your own name. You didn't mention what you do. You didn't mention all the things you can do. The value proposition is if you're laid off from GM, you call me. Got it. Right? What are the attributes, benefits, reasons, and emotion that prospects have in making a decision? Right? How is it you can say to a prospect, what's important to you is important to me? And let's think about that first, for example, right? Going back to one we used before, doctors and tobacco. If it's important to the doctor to not own tobacco, you have hit down on an emotional point. And you are going to close that prospect if you say to him, I hear that that's important to you. I can come up with a solution to get tobacco out of your portfolio. Right? And that can be done easily. We do that type of thing for clients and advisors all the time. It's just knowing who your partners are. And so when you're doing that, right, what are the benefits of tax efficiency? What are the reasons to be tax efficient? Do you not like writing a tax check in April of every single year for capital gains? Does that emotion make you angry, upset? Do you not like capital gains distributions from mutual funds in a year when the market's down? Does that emotion make you angry or upset? We can avoid those things. If we can take those emotions away from you, we can take those pain points away from you, does that make you far more likely to sign up as a client of mine? Yes, it does. And so knowing, right, what the attributes, the benefits, the reasons, and the emotions behind why it is that a prospect is going to make a decision, if you can check those boxes, you're going to close those prospects. That is something we here at Advisors Capital Management help do. So if you want some help in terms of doing that, we do it through statement reviews, and we can help talk about the benefits, the reasons, emotions, and whatnot. My email address, everybody write this down because we're here at the bottom of at the half hour, finished with the webinar. But again, my email address, just so everybody has it, is Michael, Michael, at Advisors, Advisors, Center, CENTER.com. And we can certainly help if you have prospects that you can't get over the edge from a portfolio perspective approach. We can certainly help with that. We can talk about benefits, attributes, reasons, emotions, that type of thing to try and help you get some clients or some prospects over the edge. If anybody has any questions, feel free to email me. Feel free to call me. And I thank you all. I will obviously stay on the line if there are any questions, if people want to go ahead and type them in, although I don't see any, and in these sessions I don't really get a lot of them. If anybody wants these slides, let me know. Thanks everyone for attending the webinar. Talk to you soon.